Welcome to another episode of Q&A with Pastor Andrew F. Carter. Today I have my guest, Mr. Jarrell, with me. He is a member of our church. He's a good friend, just an amazing man of God who I've come to respect and got to know over the last several months. And so if you guys would do me a favor, just join in welcoming him in the comments. My brother, Jarrell. Jarrell, how are you doing this morning?
Doing good. Appreciate you for having me.
Absolutely. So listen, tell the people, what is it that you do for a living?
So I am a marriage and family therapist, mental health therapist, psychotherapist, whatever you want to call it. But I counsel people for a living. So I provide mental health services in Black and brown communities.
I love that. Why specifically Black and brown communities?
The main reason why I provide those type of services in Black and brown communities is because it's just an underserved community. There's not a whole lot of mental health representation in Black and brown communities. Yeah. So I figured that I would just be the change.
Yeah, that's awesome. And a lot of people believe, or there's a stigma around mental health and Christianity and faith in general. I've heard a lot of people say, all you need is Jesus, right? And it's like, well, maybe Jesus sent you a therapist, right, kind of a thing.
Right.
Have you felt or experienced any pushback when it comes to being in therapy, but also being a believer?
As of late, I have not experienced any pushback, but if I go back a couple of years, I would say more so in the Bible Belt.
Okay.
I think there's a lot of pushback in the South regarding therapy and Christianity.
Yeah.
Two extremes, right? All you need to do is pray.
Right.
You don't really need to go to therapy. If you do, you don't have enough faith.
Wow.
Then you have another extreme where it's if all you're doing is going to church and, seeking pastors, then you really kind of debunk just, God's wisdom and knowledge. If all knowledge comes from God, then, personally, I don't see any issue with, seeking, experts or professionals in the mental health field. So, yeah, I personally haven't experienced any pushback as of late, but years ago, there was definitely two extremes that I experienced.
Yeah. So where are you from? So you said you were in the Bible Belt. Where are you originally from?
So I was born in Compton, California.
Okay, we got a California man.
I definitely do not use that to flex. I was born there. But I grew up in Rialto, California,
okay,
which is about 50 miles outside of downtown LA. It's in the burbs, San Bernardino County.
Okay.
Rialto is it's a very interesting city.
Yeah.
It's a very small town. It's one of those cities that you don't necessarily drive to, but you drive through on the way to Vegas.
So it's in the desert?
It's in the desert, the middle of nowhere, no man's land.
Okay. Well, what took you to the Bible Belt?
And so my first stop was actually Las Vegas.
Okay.
But I moved to Houston. I have family in Houston, and really I wanted to be a part of a local church community. And so when I was in Las Vegas, that's where I ended up meeting the Lord. And there was just a lot of trials and tribulations during my early years of walking with Jesus, and I just wanted to be a part of a church community. I figured in the South that wouldn't be an issue, and so I wanted to be closer to my family, but I also wanted to be a part of a local church that I can grow in my faith.
That's awesome. And so Vegas, Houston, and now you're back here on the best coast, the West Coast.
Yeah, man.
I would say. Well, my question then for you, this is a lighter question, being that you're a West Coast guy, born in Compton. Who is your GOAT? If we're talking basketball, who is your GOAT? Who's the greatest?
Man, that's hard.
I told them there would be no hard questions.
So you said who is my GOAT?
Who is
not
your
the GOAT?
No, who is yours? Your opinion?
Kobe.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I'm going with Kobe.
Wow.
I grew up watching LeBron as well.
Yeah.
And no shade to Michael Jordan.
Wow.
But I grew up watching Kobe. I was 7 when he came into the league.
Okay.
Kobe, hands down, my GOAT.
Okay.
It's either Kobe or LeBron. I definitely wouldn't put Jordan in that conversation.
Okay, so I think that this is probably the most controversial take we've ever had on Q&A with Pastor Andrew F. Carter. I think it's because he's a Laker guy. So I had a feeling that was his go. That's why I wanted to ask that question, because for me, it's Team MJ. But I am, gosh, I want to say almost 10 years older than you. Not quite, but I'm from a different era. So I got a chance to see all three play. I know that you have too. But you know what's crazy is I've been having this conversation with my son. I feel like, and I don't even want to say this, but I feel like my GOAT has been changing from MJ to LeBron, basically because of the longevity, because of his character off the court, the impact that he's had on the game. And many of the rising stars that we see, the Anthony Edwards, the Ja Morants, this group of young, talented players look at LeBron as kind of the guy who inspired them. And so impact, longevity, those are all things you take into account. So, man, I got to think about that. Kobe would be in my top 3, but I would never say top 1. I love that. That's
definitely top 3 for sure.
Okay, so here's another question, and this is light, kind of going into that. What would be your favorite shoe, and why? Would you prefer like a Kobe, a LeBron, or a MJ when it comes to shoe?
Now, when it comes to the shoes, it's definitely Jordan.
Okay.
Yeah. Jordan got the shoe game on lock.
Okay, so your basketball GOAT is Kobe. You would say your shoe GOAT is MJ.
Shoe GOAT is MJ. Now, if Kobe gets left out of the conversation when it comes to GOAT, it's usually Jordan or LeBron.
Yeah.
And so when it comes to that conversation, I'm going with LeBron.
Okay. I like that. That's good. So more of a biblical question. You are a Bible guy. You are a guy who loves the Word. I follow you on social, and you post a lot of stuff from some of the late greats, like the godfathers of Christianity, the Billy Grahams, the Tim Kellers, the more well-known scholars. What translation, when you're studying, when you're reading, what's your go-to translation?
My go-to translation, at least as of late, would be the Christian Standard Bible.
The Christian Standard.
Yeah, I use the CSB.
Okay.
I think it's very accurate, but at the same time, it's easy to read. So
That's good.
It's kind of that happy medium.
Yeah.
You can use it to study, but you can also read it when you're talking to an 8-year-old.
Yeah.
So I think, it's a good balance.
That's good. I honestly don't think I've read the CSB. Christian Standard.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I want to say it's an edit of the Holman Christian Standard Bible.
Okay. Yeah.
2017 is when it kind of hit the scene.
I like that. So you guys put in the comment section right now, what translation or version of the Bible do you guys prefer? And do me a favor, go check out the one that he recommends. I'm not doing it because I get a kickback. There's no affiliate link. You don't get a kickback. But it's always fun to kind of expand your understanding and palette on the Word. One that I really like isn't even a translation; it's more of a paraphrase. I like the Passion, but I try not to preach out of it. I like to study the ESV or even the New King James Version for multiple different reasons, but I got a really cool Bible that has all 3 of them next to each other. So it's a big book, but you can open it up, but it's got columns, so you can actually read side by side. New King James Version, the NCV, and then the one that I like, it has the Message as the 3rd, so you can go boom, 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 and kind of read across them. That's awesome. So we have one question that we wanted to kind of discuss. It's more of an open-ended question, but somebody wrote. He said, Pastor Andrew, I've been dating my boyfriend for almost 5 years now, and he introduced me to Christianity, but hasn't been bringing me closer to God. I've been a Catholic all my life, and now I don't know what to do with my religion. I can't marry him as a Catholic, but I'm afraid. I believe in Jesus, and I want to go to heaven. He tells me he wants to become a Christian because he wants to see me in heaven. We're turning 25 and 23 this year. I'm afraid of going into marriage without God being involved in our relationship. From a pastoral stance, because you have some pastoral history and history as a leader in the church, what would you say if you could say something? And I know this is like in a minute or less. From what I read, what would you gather, or what would you tell somebody who's in a situation like that?
Well, the first thing that stood out to me, I know that the obvious would be, Christian, Catholic. But the first thing that stood out was that this person isn't leading or encouraging this person to draw closer to the Lord. And so you definitely want to be with somebody who can encourage you and lead you closer to Jesus for sure.
Yeah, that's good.
So that's where I would start there, and then I'd probably work back in terms of like some of the different beliefs.
Yeah.
But you definitely want to be with somebody who's going to encourage you to run towards Jesus.
Yeah. I couldn't agree with you more. I look at the question and I see two people who were together for 5 years. One introduced them to Christianity, but isn't even a Christian. It sounds like there's a little dysfunction there. As a believer, I always encourage people not to be yoked together with non-believers or people who aren't of the same faith. And very similar to what you just said is you need somebody who's going to lead you. And so sometimes I feel like people get into relationships because they don't want to be alone, or because they like the way the person makes them feel, or maybe because it's lust and not love. There's all these different reasons, but I always encourage people to establish a relationship with the Lord first, and then allow that to permeate and to go into your other relationships. So if this person's watching, I would say it might even be helpful to take some time apart, to go your separate ways and to build your relationship with the Lord and see what takes place in that time of solitude, that time of absence, and that time of being apart from that individual. It's sometimes hard to seek the Lord when you're with somebody who's not. There's these two opposing forces. You're trying to go this direction, they're trying to go the other. And what typically happens is the person in your life will pull you further from the Lord in that relationship than push you closer. So not a fun place to be in. And I definitely, I don't envy that situation. We've just got a few moments left. My question for you as a Bible guy, what is your favorite book to read in the Bible? Let me frame this question, because what might happen is you might have a couple of different answers. The Bible's illegal. It's 2025. The Bible's illegal. You get one book to take with you to be it. Like, you have one book of the Bible, any book. What would that book of the Bible be that you would take along with you?
Oh man, I know you said only one.
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna pick one.
Okay.
I'm gonna pick one.
Okay.
It would be probably between. Oh man, that's hard.
Yeah.
1 John. I think it's pretty black and white.
Yeah.
What it looks like to be a Christian. And so if I could only have one,
Yeah.
I'd probably go with 1 John.
What would be your runner-up? I know you've got a couple. Let's just say now top 5. What are like 5 that you would really go into?
1 Corinthians.
Okay.
It looks very similar to what the church today looks like.
That's good.
And I think chapter 15 paints a beautiful picture of the gospel in 1 Corinthians. So 1 John, 1 Corinthians, and then I'd probably go with the Gospel of John.
Okay.
And then if I had to throw one more in there, Romans.
Okay. I like that. That's actually a solid top 5.
But if I can only have one,
1 John.
then I'd go with 1 John. I think I'd have a pretty good understanding of what it looks like to be a Christian if I just had 1 John.
Man. You know, it's crazy. I was reading 1 John today. So I read one chapter from the Old and the New. I'm in 1 John, have been for the last 3 days. I read 1 John chapter 3 today. And when I wrote this question, this is what's crazy, is I was like, I would probably take 1 John because of like the meat and potatoes. It has a lot of what you need in there. That's good. So you are newly married, and I say newly because it's been 2 years?
2 years.
2 years now, okay. Let me ask you this as somebody who's newlywed, because there's a lot of people out there who are in relationship, seeking relationship. What advice would you give to somebody who is single looking to be in a relationship?
Someone who is single looking to be in a relationship. So they're not pursuing. I don't want to make this I don't want to overcomplicate the question.
No, yeah. They're not pursuing, but they're open to the idea.
Yeah, I would say definitely spending time with Jesus, but also just knowing what your intentions are and then making those intentions known when you do meet someone.
Yeah. So that's great relationship advice for somebody who's single. What would you tell somebody who's newly married? Like you're 2 years in at this point. Do you have any encouragement or something that you would tell somebody who just got married?
Oh, man. I would say to someone who just got married to continue to prioritize the marriage. Whether it's, whether you're in ministry, vocational ministry, bivocational, continue to prioritize the marriage. Your marriage comes before everything under God. But yeah, you definitely want to prioritize the marriage before anything.
That's amazing. And it's easy, right? It's easy to allow the pursuit of job or career or ministry, even something as good as like your own health. It's easy to allow life to get the best of you and things and priorities to get out of order. And so I couldn't agree with you more. We're going into year 4 of our marriage, and we just took a big hit with having a baby. It sounds like it's a bad thing. We just took a big hit. I mean, we had a baby. It's a joyous thing. It's a good thing.
Right.
But the baby, she's gonna watch this in 20 years and be like, yeah, the baby, I was a hit. Like she blew up our whole situation and our whole thing that we were doing, our routine. But it was easy to allow life to get the best of us and things to fall out of alignment and allow other things to become priority over our marriage. And you definitely feel the effects of that. So I couldn't agree with you more. Look, we're running out of time. And one thing I like to do with all of my guests, and this is going to put you on the spot, right? You've been waiting for the big one, but let's just say you and your amazing wife, Sulema, have been married, right, for decades. You are 99 years old. You've got 38 grandkids running around, little Jarrells and little Sulemas running around. Yeah. You guys have finished well. You're on your deathbed and you have 1 minute to tell the world a message. I want you to look into that camera right there and give the world your departing message. What would you say to them?
My departing message, I would say that we currently live in a broken world. If you turn on the TV, you see, just shootings, killings, sicknesses, just a lot of chaos. You don't have to scroll far to see chaos that is taking place throughout the world. But in the beginning, when God created the world, it was perfect, right? We see traces of beauty. Then you have Adam and Eve, who were given a command to eat from any tree. They can eat from any tree except from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. They decided to go against what God had called them to and to go their own way. And so they sinned against God. And that's how we got from God's perfect design to brokenness. And oftentimes we try to fill that void. We try to fill that brokenness with sex, religion, drugs, relationships, but all of those things are like bungee cords. And in fact, they actually snap us back into brokenness. But God loves us so much that he says that we don't have to stay in brokenness. We do not have to stay in brokenness, right? He loves us so much that he came down in human form, Jesus. He lived a perfect life, a life of no sin. He never sinned. He was without spot or blemish. He willingly gave his life on the cross. They buried Jesus, and 3 days later, he rose from the grave as a testimony that God had accepted his sacrifice. Jesus, in fact, tells us that we can get back to God's design if we do 2 things. If we repent and turn from our sin, and we choose to follow Jesus. Jesus says that he is the way, the truth, and the life, and no one can come to the Father except through him. Repent and turn from sin, and we can be brought back to God. We can be reconciled back to the Father, living according to the design that God had called us to. I would share that message. That's the greatest message you can ever share with anyone. if you are in brokenness, you don't have to stay in brokenness. You can choose to follow Jesus and spend eternity with him.
Amen, man. That is one of the most beautiful gospel presentations I've ever heard. That's amazing. That is absolutely amazing. So I just want to say thank you, man. I appreciate you for coming on, for taking the time. I know you're a busy man, and you've got a lot of things going on. So I just want to honor you. Jarrell is somebody who I look up to, even though he's younger than I am. I honor his love for the word, the seriousness in which he takes his relationship with Jesus. He's a man of integrity and is somebody who I would want my people around, my people in my life. This is somebody who I want in my corner and in my life at all times, because he is just a solid example of what it is to be a man of God. I think you love your wife well, and you really, truly have a servant heart. You have all of look how fly this guy dresses, right? This guy's got one of the best wardrobes at the church, but he's so humble and meek and doesn't lord that over anybody. So I just appreciate you and honor you for coming on and spending time with us today.
Appreciate you, Pastor.
Absolutely. So thank you guys for watching another episode of Q&A with Pastor Andrew F. Carter. You guys make sure that you like this video, click subscribe, and turn on the notifications. Listen, if you guys have questions for me or for us or for anybody, let us know in the comment section. We appreciate you guys watching this. And do me one favor, before you go, make sure you share this video, because sharing is caring, and you never know what we talked about today might just bless somebody on the other side of this screen. So until next time, have a great day, and we'll see you guys later.